And it 5 hours. You guys went 5 hours of comedy.
Well, 5 hours of comedy writing. Yeah, it's like it's epic. A guy will spend years to do an hour, like a stand-up comic,
Yeah.
and usually they kind of you rotate 5 and 10 minutes in and out of a
Mhm.
bit, so that you're every year you're doing 10, 20 minutes of new material. So it's hard to, you could talk about lines of code, you could talk about like terabytes of textures. 5 hours of comedy is a mountain of
Yeah,
comedy, and so
that's
we're just
like
happy when
doing.
people laugh because it's so hard to to do that.
I mean, that's like doing any kind of animation where, like, yeah, I got a minute done in a day. Like, that is unheard of,
Yeah.
sir. Cocaine is illegal. Like,
Yeah, that's why you go to Miami all the time.
I mean, hey, sometimes in Miami you can get the best prices for the best deals, and then
That's what I heard.
afterwards you can just have ICE come in and take your money back.
Yeah. Or wander out on the beach and find more.
I mean, is Charlie Sheen in town? If you're planning on doing a game, the game loop, like, what is the best way you could get somebody to understand like a game loop by itself?
Yeah, you gotta think. If you want to think about game loops, you need to like become Sonic the Hedgehog, because it's loops and loops and loops and rings and overlapping rings, and you're just gonna be seeing rings. The loops are, um, you have your kind of minute to minute loops. You
Yes.
have a 5 minute loop. You've got a 10-minute loop or a 12-minute loop. You got a 20-minute loop. They need to overlap. They need to not intersect all the time, and so and they can't be at the same intensity level. So in Legends of Boom, I theorized that the session time, which at the time we started was like 3 minutes, was sort of the go-to session time for a mobile game. And I know we're not doing a mobile game, but we might. Maybe this game's better on mobile. I don't know. We were experimenting, but the session time would be less than 3 minutes in the future, not more. Just a vector, right? It's not getting short. It's
Right.
not getting longer. And so we put it down to 2, and then we lowered it to 90, and it was intense, but you didn't feel like you got enough. And we were like, damn it, that's a good loop. That's a fun loop, because I just want to play one more. And so you gotta find the fun in each of the loops. I know this is super abstract. I don't know. There's not a formula, but you basically have to find the fun in each loop, and then figure out how you can back it off a little bit. So we have okay, after a couple matches, go to your deck, maybe change a couple cards out, try that out again. And so you have these kind of bigger outer loops, and so just think of it as rings, loops and loops and loops that are overlapping. And you got to find the fun in each one, and make sure that you have sort of a ride like this. So you have intensity and then non-intensity. There's a lot of that.
Absolutely.
Takes forever. You got to
I,
just
I
try it.
I mean, yeah, like a lot of games have their own loop style that works for them, and my question is like, how long did it take you guys to figure out like the 90 seconds is the loop to go for? Was it just, hey, let's just keep experimenting until we find it?
I think it took us probably, so the game itself didn't really change if you were to look at like the drawings on paper to 6 months in. The
Yeah.
game itself wasn't very different, just on the surface level, but all the numbers for everything were different. The timer didn't, like I said, I started off at 2 minutes thinking 3 was where everyone was at. I thought it was 2. We went to 90, so not huge changes, but it took 6 months of refinement to get that core loop fun enough.
There we
And
go.
then we finally went, okay, it's finally fun. And then what I realized, it's finally fun to do the thing, right? It doesn't just look cool, it's actually fun. And then what we realized was that 90 seconds was awesome, but you knew if you were going to whip that guy's ass in 45.
Ooh.
And so
Ooh, that's
then,
always the best part.
so it's good for you, but if you're losing, you knew you were going to lose 45 seconds in. So you had 45 seconds to endure. And so we were starting to say, we want a forfeit button. And I said, absolutely not. Forfeit button, that means we got a problem. We can't solve it with quit the game. Like, of all the things, like, stop playing. Like, Mario Brothers not fun. Boop, reset. You're like, what are you doing? You're not invited to my house anymore. You know.
Right.
So what we did was we realized that I needed a comeback mechanic that wasn't certain but was possible. And so what we
Okay.
did was we took. So you're getting your ass kicked, right? Blah, 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 blah. Well, you could, if you've taken enough damage, you can basically gambit, sacrifice your piece, turn it into a nuclear silo, and then 3 seconds later, if your piece doesn't get destroyed while it's sitting there, it'll come down and nuke the hell out of the other side. You don't know where, and the more you're losing, the less likely it is to be a good hit. But every now and then, one of those lands, and then maybe another one lands, and you might, like, eke out a victory. And so that was like an addicting chance. You're telling me that, what was all that 1 in a million talk? You're telling me
the Hail Mary throw,
right? And so 10-20% of your time, it works, and more if you're close. So then you start thinking like, oh, do I really gambit like in the middle of this match? We're kind of even.
Right.
Do I start putting pieces like separated so that they can't get nuked? Do I, and so then what that did was give us a next level of strategy, and the ability to have these boards play out with big strategy. And so my point is, you gotta just find the fun, and it takes a long time messing around with the loops, and you gotta just play your game, play it, and the parts that you don't like, if it's prickly, figure out a mechanic that makes that not prickly, that doesn't break your game.
Right.
And you keep doing that until you have just a fun game.
So speaking about things that work out best for you,